Hey fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Pretty much everyone on YouTube are doing some kind of draw breakdown. I usually do that for the Grand Slams, look at the draw, go through predictions, and I will do that also this year around and in this video, but I will also talk a little bit about rackets and strings and so on, so it will be a little bit of a mixed bag, Australian Open themed. So I hope you're into that. Stick around for some racket info, strings, and whatnot. Let's break them down quarter by quarter. I've done the same on tennisnerd.net, so always check out that website, always updated. I have some friends there helping me with the website because it's a lot of work, but it's doing well. I have almost like 10,000 people every day, so that's fun. So you can check that out and see the predictions and other tennis content. There's also this guide to rackets and strings if you want kind of more in-depth information about gear. So first quarter, we have Novak Djokovic, #1 in the world. Many people's favorite to win the Australian Open. Got a pretty tricky first round opponent. I mentioned him in my most recent mixed bag. Croatian teenager Dino Prismic, very strong player. He's still very young, but can cause Novak some problems in a first round. You know, you're always nervous when you're playing a first round. You haven't really got used to the settings, the conditions, the courts. I mean, Novak, he's obviously the GOAT in many ways and wins like Australian Opens every year pretty much, it feels like. But still, the first round can even bother him, you know. So and also we have a question mark about his wrist. Will that hold up? Since it's Novak, and I know how good he is with his preparations, how seriously he takes this, I think he will be fine. But I think he can lose a set to Prismic. And Prismic have now changed rackets from Aero racket. I'm not sure if it was the 98 or the 100. And he's now with a Blade. The Blade V9 was revealed and talked about a little bit in my previous video. And it's a very green racket. You have some pictures here, and I'm very curious to test it a bit more in depth, waiting for some demos. I have played with it, but only for a few hours, so I need a bit more time. But review to come, so make sure you subscribe. Thank you very much. We have a really blockbuster match, another racket changer that I've talked about, Etcheverry. Thomas Martin Etcheverry, now third in the world. He has gone from his Speed MP, the Yannick Sinner mold, to Percept 97. I talked about that in the sponsorship changes video. And he's playing Andy Murray. And I think Andy Murray talked about this previously, that he needs to shorten the points. He has gotten himself embroiled in these long matches. And it turns out that obviously with his body, it's not as young and fresh as maybe a player like Etcheverry. He needs to take a little bit more risk. I know it's not his game, but I think he's realized that. For a while, he tried to switch to a bigger head size racket, 99 square inches. 1619, something that Ilya Ivashka is now testing and playing with, and he liked that, but seemed not super confident when it came to match play, and in the end he went back to his PT57A. So I still believe pretty strongly that he should have stuck with that racket, or at least tried something different. I thought maybe 1619 in that racket is a bit mushy, a bit too open, but he should have gone maybe with an 1819, 99 or something to give him a bit more power. That's my opinion. I think you can get more from the racket. I think it can help the pros. But in his case, you know, who am I to talk? So curious to see that match. I think actually Etcheverry will win this match based on being pretty fresh and in form and so on. But who knows? Murray, you can never count him out. He's such a fighter. We also have another good match, Mannarino versus Wawrinka. And Adrian Mannarino, as you know, the low tension guy, down to like 11, 12 kilos. Maybe he's gone even lower. I think 10 at the worst. And that's around 23, 24 pounds. And he's ranked at his top in his life, in his career. So he's coming in with a lot of momentum and a lot of confidence. I think he's usually playing pretty well down under Australian Open. So I think it's a tough one for Stan. I'm a Stan the Man fan. So I want to see him do well, but I think it is tough. He might also need more power from the racket, PS. I do believe in Mannarino in this match, if we look at the first round matches. Then we have Bautista Agut, solid player, was once top 10, playing Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton is that kind of explosive power player. I think it will be tough for Bautista Agut now that he's dropped a little bit in the rankings. He needs to rely a lot on smart tennis, playing a bit like Novak. And he can cause just Novak some issues with his game, but I think against Shelton, who likes to go for his shots, I think it will be tough. Shelton is a bit too good. And the blockbuster match from the first quarter is Berrettini versus Tsitsipas. And Berrettini, he is back now. He has struggled with injuries for a long time. And, you know, I felt for him a lot. I saw him live in Stuttgart At the Boss Open, when he was leaving the court, he lost really badly to Sonego, and he was, crying because, I mean, his body was not ready for tennis, and it's been a long time for him. Now he seems to be healthy. How healthy, I don't know, but enough to play an Australian Open. Obviously, Tsitsipas is a tough one. It's a tough opponent to start your journey back as Berrettini. So I think Tsitsipas is too strong here. He has won all their encounters previously, so he also seems to be able to handle Berrettini well. As you might have seen in my previous sponsorship video, Tsitsipas was testing a red string, a new string from Laxalon. I think it's called Eco Spin. It is Petros' racket, my buddy Petros, and he is testing Eco Spin, and Tsitsipas and Steph was just trying that for a bit. So there's no changes. Steph will play with his setup, whether it's 4G GUT or full 4G. We will see. Sometimes he switches. And my two quarterfinalists from this draw, Djokovic and Tsitsipas. Let me know what you think. In quarter two, we have Jannik Sinner, we have Andrei Rublev, we have Frances Tiafoe, we have Sebastian Korda. I talked about Korda previously in my previous video about his new racket. Now he has actually a green cosmetic, the Blade cosmetic, and it's very likely an 1819 Blade 98. But we cannot be 100% sure, but that's the feeling. Maybe he's been playing with the new Blade for a long time, and that's why it was blacked out. I don't know. Hard to know, but I don't think so. And if we look at this draw, I listened to some other predictions, and some people think that Van de Zandschulp from Netherlands will cause problems for Jannik Sinner, but I don't think so. I think Sinner is too strong. I mean, it's obviously difficult to predict when players have been off, not playing the starting events, the events before the Australian Open. I struggle to call them warm-up events, but it's kind of what they are. Some players just wait and just go for the Australian Open, but it's easier to predict some form when you've seen players before, but we'll see. I think Sinner is too good to have any problems in that match. Then we have Tiafoe versus Coric, Borna Coric, also back in action, player that kind of sometimes struggles with injuries. Tiafoe has a new coach now, back to his kind of first coach, I think, first serious coach at least, Diego Amoyano. So curious to see how that impacts his game. Coric, I don't really know how his start of the season has been. Another match in that draw is De Minaur versus Raonic. De Minaur, great start to the season, beat Djokovic. Djokovic with the wrist problem, but still, even if Djokovic is limping, it requires quite a player to beat him. Milos Raonic, 300 in the world now. Obviously, his potential is much higher than that, but he's always a question mark. How does his body feel? How is his serve holding up? So on. I think De Minaur should be too good, but he should be able to steal a set from De Minaur, Raonic is. And then Seb Korda did reach the semifinals in Adelaide, but lost in the semis to Jiril Lehečka, the eventual winner. Lehečka is a guy you should watch out for. He's a very good player. But I think that also Korda has a pretty tricky first round draw with the qualifier Vit Kopriva. That guy is quite dangerous. You might remember him from some years back. I even put an upset alert here that Korda will lose to him in 5 sets, but I'm not like 100% on that. I wouldn't put all my 500 euros on that bet, let's say, but still something I feel like could happen, because Kopriva is good and he's qualified, so it means he's on, he's firing, so we will see. And we also have like Tabilo, who won the event prior to the Australian Open. He is playing in this draw, and he's an interesting player to watch. Keep your eyes out for Tabilo. He's starting as Kovacevic, so not like an impossible first round. And then Rublev, of course, is a guy I predict will go to the quarters, where he will face Sinner in my prediction, and he will probably lose. I know that Rublev has this monkey on his back with the quarterfinals. He never gets past that stage. I thought he might, but then with the draw, you have Sinner. Possible, but will be tough. I believe Sinner in that end, but we'll get to that. Okay, third quarter players like Rune, Fils, Safiullin, Shapovalov, Dimitrov, Thiem, Medvedev. This is a stacked part of the draw. Very tough to predict. Rune has a pretty good first round draw, I would say, against Nishioka. I think players suit him pretty well. Don't know Medvedev's form. He hasn't played a warm-up event. Dimitrov, we know, is playing great, but 5 sets, starts against Fucsovic. Fucsovic, strong, difficult player, a really tough guy to beat. Shapovalov, how will he play? Starts with Jakub Mensik, who qualified, so that's not an easy match. Shapo has played like 1 match in a long time, and he lost that one, so yeah, I would struggle to see him go further, actually. And Artur Fils is a guy that you should watch. He is very, very, very good. So he's a guy I think can go far in the draw. We have a great first round match, the blockbuster match in this part of the draw. That's Auger Aliassime versus Thiem. I think that's a tough one for Aliasim, who has been on and off with his form. I don't know, like he's been switching strings a little bit back and forth. RPM Blast, Ralph. Tried a little bit here and there. We know team he plays with RPM Power still. I would guess team wins this one, but in 5 sets. That's my guess based on not super much data. They only played once in 2020 and team won, but it's a tough one. Alright, so my quarterfinalists in this draw, I think Rune with his new team, with Becker, Severin Luti, will have a good momentum and a good team behind him for his first slam. And I do believe he's in his game. He can be a bit immature on the court, but he plays tennis really well. So, and then we'll see. Medvedev is my guess. He finds a way usually in these matches and on the hard court. So I think he will be a quarterfinalist. Last quarter on the men's side, players like Zverev, Alcaraz, Ruud. Zverev played amazingly well in United Cup. There's a little bit of drama around Zverev now. That's nothing new really, but because he was very much in this limelight in one episode of the Breakpoint series on Netflix, and they didn't mention his abuse allegations and stuff like that, and the way he hit like the umpire's chair. They made him look a bit like a hero, and they made Medvedev look a bit like a villain. According to hearsay, I haven't watched this episode, but I know Zverev has a pretty good lawyer team, so maybe he's found a way to push this narrative. I don't know. I don't know Zverev. I don't know the players here, but some would argue that like if you looked at this series and you get into tennis and then you hear about the abuse allegations, it puts a little bit of sour taste in your mouth. So yeah, I don't know. I think Zverev looked really good on the tennis court at the United Cup. I think he is a dangerous player here for everyone and can go really far, but we'll see. He needs to obviously bring his best form against the best guys in the world. We have an exciting young player, pure aero player, Alex Michelsen, and should be able to get through McCabe in the first round. We have Jirele Heshka and Jack Draper, the finalists from Adelaide. Very, very interesting players. I like both of them. Very aggressive, go for their shots. Yeah, these two players I like watching, and they had some great rallies in their final there. And then Alcaraz against Gasquet. I would say Alcaraz shouldn't struggle with Gasquet. Gasquet is now getting a little bit best before date. I also like Dan Evans-Sonego match because I do like Dan Evans' style and his slice, and that's something we can use in our game and get inspired from, that you don't need to hit the backhand so many times. You know what I mean, right? So, Bublik is in the draw. You've seen Bublik's craziness. I usually applaud it. I love when he's being a little bit Kyrgios light, as I usually call him. Kyrgios from Kazakhstan. And he's fun to watch. And he's playing now with the Technifiber stick, and it seems to work well for his game. In the end, I did not go for any upsets here. I went for Zverev versus Alcaraz. And just a footnote, a funny thing with Zverev, that he strings his rackets in hectos, meaning like, so it's 21.4 kilos, for example, or 20.9. And I have stringer friends that have strung for him where he's changing the tension by 100 grams. Very interesting. I don't think that makes any difference whatsoever, but maybe I don't understand that 100%. So this is the only guy I know that does this. Usually it's half a kilo, so 500 grams. That brings us to the quarterfinals from the men's draw. Djokovic versus Tsitsipas, Sinner versus Rublev, Rune versus Medvedev, and Zverev versus Alcaraz. So here I don't have anything shocking to reveal about my own predictions. I feel like Djokovic is too strong for Tsitsipas, even if Tsitsipas is having a good tournament, which if he gets this far, he is having. I think Sinner is a little bit of a step above Rublev, and I think Medvedev is a bit of a tricky guy for Rune to face. I think he will find his way. He's usually a very smart player. And then we have Zverev versus Alcaraz, where I feel like Alcaraz's game is a bit too much for Zverev, even as Zverev in good form. Nothing shocking when you look at the semifinals. Djokovic versus Sinner, Medvedev versus Alcaraz. It's not like I'm bringing you anything completely outrageous here. I think Djokovic is too good for Sinner still, especially at the Australian Open and in 5 sets. And I think Alcaraz is maybe a step above Medvedev for this one. I mean, last time they played in I think at US Open, he lost, but I do believe he will win this time around. And then we have Djokovic Alcaraz, huge blockbuster final for the men's side. I think Djokovic is too strong. I think he will win in 4 sets. He finds solutions and pathways how to kind of break down a player, and I think he could do it even with Alcaraz. But that would be a great final to watch. It would be fun to see some upsets. I didn't bring any upsets in these predictions. Sorry about that. But I'm keen to hear if you have any outrageous predictions from this draw. Let's now go to the women's. Will be a long video, but I hope you enjoy it anyway. So the women's draw, even more open than the men's. I think both draws now these days are becoming more and more open. I would say Novak is a bit of a bigger favorite than Iga Swiatek would be on the women's side. So first part of the draw, we have Swiatek, we have Azarenka, Ostapenko. Ostapenko just won a title. She will be very dangerous. Svitolina and Kerber, so quite a strong first part of the draw. Swiatek has a pretty rough draw, you would say on paper. Sofia Kenin has won this event some years back. 38 these days, ranked, not age. Can get going, feeling confident, make some issues for Swiatek, but I don't think it's enough. I think Swiatek is too good. Talking about Swiatek, I wanted to also mention that they have now publicized her racket switch from the Iga 298 to the T-Fight 300. They've worked on some customization with Dieter Kalle, I think his name is. And I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what her specs are. Before there used to be an unstrung swing weight of 299 and a balance that was kind of close to even balance. Not sure what they tweaked, if they added some weight or if they subtracted some weight. Maybe someone can inform me. But she will be endorsing, as far as I understand, and not using the T-Fight. She will be using her old mold, but endorsing the T-Fight. That's as far as I understood. Maybe I'm wrong. At least it's a T-Fight 300 in her hands. And I think the idea is that they will now discontinue the tempo line, which makes sense. And I love watching Swiatek play. She has such a great game. And I think she's good for the sport in that sense, bringing a lot more topspin. Very fun to see her. Svitolina is also someone here in this draw that you should look out for with her steam racket, and someone who can string some wins together. But I would say Ostapenko now with her recent form, and she's a form player. She goes for her shots. I think this is the quarterfinal we will see. Swiatek versus Ostapenko. Quarter 2, we have players like Rybakina, Stevens, Kasatkina, Raducanu, and Pegula. Pretty strong draw, not as strong maybe as number 3rd. I would put like a finger up for Katie Bolter, who has played really well, and I think a lot of British press are also interested in watching Elmar Raducanu. Still seems to be struggling with the coach options, and said in an interview that she has problems seeing how coaches can help and trusting coaches, and that they don't really know what she knows about her own game and so on. And I think that's an attitude that she would need to adjust a bit, because I think bringing in outside influences in life in general, but also on the tennis court, is important and a way to go. So I think she needs to maybe adjust this mindset. And until she does that, I am not sure we will see huge success from Raducanu. That's my feeling. So some interesting names there. Rybakina Pliskova is a very good first round match. Pliskova can play amazing tennis when she's on form. Will she beat Rybakina? I don't think so. Or Rybakina. She did warm up and win the warm-up event by beating Arina Sabalenka in the final 6-3, 6-love, or 6-love, 6-3. I don't remember 100%. So Rybakina is in great form, seems very mentally stable. I think she will be too good here. So I didn't go for anything crazy here. Rybakina and her V-Core versus Jessica Pegula. I think that is a possible quarterfinal from here. It's not the strongest part of the draw, which we're getting to now with quarter 3. Here we have quite a few names. Maria Sakkari with her new Wilson Shift 99. Always fun to watch when someone switches rackets to see how that affects their game and their confidence and what happens. Caroline Wozniacki, wildcard, coming in here. Always dangerous, of course, even if she hasn't played in a few years. Leila Fernandez, one that I think many are talking up, and I think she is a great fighter, always working on her game. Has been here in Marbella to train, and she seems to be a very nice person as well. Naomi Osaka, audience favorite, super strong. Does she have the energy to go through a draw like that and to play for 2 weeks? Question mark there, I would say. Caroline Garcia, which is the exciting first round with Osaka, and Coco Gauff. So this draw is packed. It's packed part of the draw. The quarter 3 always seems to be the pack. That's something I've noticed in recent years. Okay, so one match to watch. Beatriz Haddad-Maia and Linda Fruhvirtova. Haddad-Maia, a very strong player, top 10 seed, but I think her form is not been that amazing. And the Fruhvirtova sisters, that's Brenda and Linda, both very dangerous, and I think this would be an upset alert here. So Fruhvirtova to win that one. I also think that Naomi Osaka is feeling good. She looks to be in form, and I think she will beat Caroline Garcia, who cannot be happy about that draw. So that's interesting then to see how far she can go. I think there's a ceiling in terms of fitness and match play. You know, she's not really used to playing matches on this level, so I think it will take a while before she gets back into that feeling. Coco Gauff won the warm-up tournament. She has potential to go very far in this event. Maybe not all the way. We'll get to that. I think from this draw, we will have Gauff and Sakkari. And Sakkari has a new mental coach who used to coach someone I'm blanking on at this moment. But she has a new mental coach with a good pedigree. And I think that can really help her. And I think this could be a game changer for her. So we'll see how it goes. Quarter 4, man, I'm talking today. Ons Jabeur, Aryna Sabalenka, Paula Badosa, and Mira Andreeva. The reason I'm mentioning Andreeva is I think she's a huge potential to actually blast through the draw and go all the way to the quarters. She is a very talented player. Ons Jabeur on the other side, on the other hand, who will probably face Andreeva in round 2. I haven't seen her form. And she doesn't seem to be, as confident as feeling good about her game. So I think Andreeva should be able to beat Jabeur in round 2. I think she's like a machine. Paula Badosa, obviously a question mark, gets a first tough round against Taylor Townsend with a tricky game. I think that's an upset alert there, whether you can call it that. Brenda Fruhvirtova, the other Czech sister. Fruhvirtova, can she disturb Sabalenka in the second round? Possibly. No. Maybe a little bit, but not enough. I think Sabalenka is riding high in confidence. She loves these arenas. This place she won last year should be able to motor through the draw pretty reliably. So here I have quarterfinalist Andreeva versus Sabalenka. This leads us to the quarters from the women's tournament. We have Świątek versus Ostapenko. We have Rybakina versus Pegula. We have Gauff versus Sakkari and Andreeva versus Sabalenka. And my feeling, and there's nothing really shocking here either. I usually don't see a lot of shocking results in Grand Slams. I've been following tennis for ages now. I believe that the favorites will win overall. So we will have Świątek versus Rybakina in the semifinal and Gauff versus Sabalenka. And that's some great semifinal action. You can argue that these are very much coin toss matches, pretty good head-to-heads. Here we have something interesting with Świątek and Rybakina, sorry, my pronunciations, 3-1 head-to-head to the Kazakh player. And the only match she lost to Iga was when she withdrew from the Rome quarterfinal last year, 2023. So I think Świątek struggles, obviously, with when the pace is coming to her and she doesn't have time to set up with her swing. However, she is working on dealing with that by shortening the swings. She has changed her serve. She has done a lot of adjustments. Is it enough against an informed Rybakina? I don't think so. I actually think Rybakina will win this semifinal. But I could, easily be wrong in this sense. It's a tough one. This, like I said, a coin toss a little bit. Then we have Gauff versus Sabalenka. Gauff working on her serve also. She hasn't done anything drastic to her forehand, which a lot of people complained that her forehand looks a little bit odd. What I heard from that Brad Gilbert is he told her more to just focus on the match. Don't focus so much on the forehand. Get your head out of that. And he's a very, very smart coach, and it seems to have unlocked some confidence and some flow in her game. And Gauff leads the head-to-head 4-2, but I do believe that Sabalenka, feeling pretty much at home at the Australian Open, will win that match anyway. And then we have a final, Sabalenka versus Rybakina. Two heavy hitters. I do believe that the 5-3 head-to-head record in Sabalenka's favor is not the most important thing here. I think Rybakina's win in Brisbane, where she gave her only 3 games, will tell the tale here and give Rybakina her Grand Slam title, another one for her. That leaves us to 2 winners. Djokovic on the men's side, not a shock as I said, and Rybakina on the women's side, not a shock either. She's one of the players that most people talk about, but I think Świątek is most players' favorite. So there are odds about this. If you're into betting and all other types of content, there will be lots of content on the Tennis Nerd website and other social media. So if you want to follow, subscribe, it's all free, of course. Please do that. And thanks for checking in. Thanks for being a tennis nerd. I hope you have a nice day, and don't forget to play some tennis.